Hello, everyone. Hello. I am going to immediately stop our comments. Oh, let me just see if I can bring. I'm going to shut off our comments. This is going to be a very interesting. Hey,
Hi,
hello, hello. Let
Beth.
me see. Turn off commenting. Okay, I've gotten the comments turned off. Hello. Oh, I see you have some balloons. Is that because you're celebrating?
Yes, I'm celebrating my new book that just came out 2 days ago. Let me see if I could turn this around so we don't look so backwards, but it's
Oh,
the
there we go. I see it.
protocol.
Yes, the adrenal transformation protocol. So I am traveling right now, and I don't have the book with me. So I'm really happy to be able to read it when I get home because I know it has so much information that, in my opinion, most people can use, especially coming out of um, the lockdown. I mean, would you say just as a start? We'll do the introduction in a second, but as a thought, is that am I kind of on the right track that most people have had some kind of hit to their system during this you know various stages of lockdown, pandemic, and different kind of life than we've ever
Oh
lived?
my gosh, absolutely. So we can get stuck in a chronic stress response when we don't feel safe, right? And the last 2 years have been crazy. So with, the pandemic and war and all kinds of uncertain times that have been going on and being disconnected from community, I feel like a lot of people can end up getting stuck with this adrenal stress dysfunction where they end up feeling brain fogged and fatigued. They have anxiety, they have a hard time sleeping because they're stressed and they don't know how to shake off that stress. And they challenges when you've been in that period for a prolonged period of time, you can gain weight, you can be at risk for pain in your body, you could be at risk for fertility issues, and even chronic health conditions and autoimmunity, things that I've been working with in the last 10 years. Stress is oftentimes the precursor for those.
And doesn't inflammation is on the rise during those times too, which is kind of what, all of those things you discussed really thrive in an inflamed state, right? And certainly
Absolutely.
contribute to it as well.
Absolutely. It's stress is so inflammatory to our bodies, and then inflammation is so stressful too, right? So it's all like a vicious
Yes,
cycle.
yes, I have been living that today. I spent a lot of time in the pool today to help swelling in a leg that just didn't want to get released by dry brushing or massage gunning or, any other, type of walking, anything. And then I think the pool really helped. But I was in that pool for about an hour, just moving around. So, hello everyone. As you know, if you're here on my channel, I'm Beth Rylersdam. I'm known as Curvy Girl Beth across socials, and I'm a speaker and a plus size model and a lifestyle kind of brand. But one of my passions and how I actually got started here on my platform was because I am a lipedema awareness advocate. And lipedema is a disease that affects 11% of women worldwide. It's typically an additional adipose tissue layer from the waist down, and in about 80% of cases in the upper arms. And there's lots that goes with that, but that's our short overview about me. And I am joined today by Dr. Izabella Wentz, known as the thyroid pharmacist here across socials. And she has written yet another book. I have known of Dr. Izabella, why, yikes, what did we say? Did I say like since at least 2013?
I think
Um, um, and I have had her I have struggled with my thyroid. I have the thyroid antibodies, and I'm always looking for an answer on how can I keep it at bay so that my thyroid stays regulated enough not to go off track. And so I have followed her work for quite some time and have a number of her books at home again. For along the thyroid lines, and what she always presents and the way that she presents them has always made such sense to me that I recommend her work from time to time to people who are really looking for answers, because I think she provides a lot of insights. And so now that she is written this new adrenal fatigue, prescription type book, I'm really fascinated because I think the adrenals are something, certainly in Western medicine, that gets overlooked constantly. And I think it really has a lot to do with where we're at and how, one of the things that we can look at for sharpening things up. And as we said in the beginning, because we've been in these uncertain times, I personally think that many people are still feeling those effects, although we are moving about. I think it's still a little bit, we're still a little bit insecure about what's happening or where we're at, kind of thing. And so I think this book comes at a timely fashion. So let me turn it over to Izabella to kind of tell us a little bit about her story, because not only is she a pharmacist and an author and a very studied, expert in these areas, but she's also someone who has overcome these types of issues herself and really, by virtue of that, has really brought her learnings to all of us. So give us a little introduction.
So thank you so much for having me. It's just such a pleasure to be here with you. I'm always so inspired by your work and everything that you share with the community. So if anybody watching from my community, please make sure you follow Curvy Girl Beth. She shares some really helpful and really fun content as well. My personal story has been that of somebody that was stuck with chronic fatigue that started in undergrad, where I went from this really energetic young person to somebody that was sleeping 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And I got into pharmacy school. I just figured out how to be really efficient at learning and passed the exams to get into pharmacy school. And throughout pharmacy school, I was in my 20s and I was living this life where I was studying and sleeping and studying and sleeping. And I ended up actually during pharmacy school then getting an irritable bowel syndrome diagnosis. When I graduated from pharmacy school, I started getting panic attacks. Then it was anxiety, then it was acid reflux, then it was like carpal tunnel in both arms, hair loss, fatigue. Was ongoing and constant. And then I started gaining weight. All of a sudden, the weight just came out of nowhere, where I was like, I don't know how these sweatpants fit like a week ago and now they're so tight. Like, where did this come from? And, it was something crazy like 15 pounds that I had gained in such a short amount of time that I didn't change my diet. I didn't change my exercise routine. Hair's falling out. I'm exhausted. I'm like emotional all the time, kind of like, everything's bringing me to tears. And I was like, what is going on with me? And I had been going to the doctor every year and being like, I'm tired, or I have this. And they were like, well, everybody's tired, or, you're just getting older. I was 25 at the time, I might add, and just not really getting a lot of answers, really. I had been working as a consultant pharmacist at that time. And after a little while, I realized, you know what? Not all doctors are created equally. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, let me seek for another opinion.
More pharmacists.
Right. Not everybody knows everything. And right. I ended up getting a diagnosis of Hashimoto's with really high thyroid antibodies. And part of me was devastated because I was like, will I ever be able to be a mother, right? Like this is really sad. And part of me was like relieved because I'm like, I finally feel validated that like I'm not just lazy, I'm not just, crazy or but maybe there's a solution. And so I got on thyroid meds. Being a pharmacist, I was like, meds, yes. And the meds did help a little bit. I went from sleeping 12 hours to like 11 hours a night, which was a plus. And I went from wearing like 2 jackets in Southern California to just one because cold intolerance is a symptom, right? But that was kind of the extent of how I felt better. And so I really ended up diving deep into like the root causes, like what caused me to develop an autoimmune thyroid condition? Is there anything I can do, like in addition to taking meds? Can I reduce the attack on my thyroid gland? Can I get rid of my symptoms? And that's how I became this like Hashimoto's expert, thyroid expert / human guinea pig, where I started just really peeling back the layers of how chronic illness happened within my own body. And 10 years ago, I was able to write a book about this, and it's been shared. I think over 100,000 copies have been around the world at this point. It's been translating into multiple languages. And I feel like, I hope now that I've been talking about Hashimoto's for the last decade, people have gotten some answers and some solutions. One of the most helpful things is getting off of gluten. 88% of people feel better gluten-free when they have Hashimoto's, and it can make such a big difference in your, a pain in your body. It can make a difference in your digestive symptoms, hair loss, sometimes fatigue. Some people can normalize their thyroid
Brain fog.
antibodies and brain fog.
Brain.
This can make such a big difference, and some people can go into complete remission going gluten-free just when they have Hashimoto's. But I was a complicated case, and so it wasn't just going gluten-free that helped me. I had to keep digging deeper. And one of the things that was a big part of my healing journey was supporting the health of my adrenals. Now, conventional medicine practitioners, if you talk about adrenals, they'll say Addison's disease or, Cushing's disease. And these are kind of two extremes, very serious life-threatening conditions, very important to be supported when you have them. This could be an intensive care type of situation, but most people don't have this level of adrenal dysfunction. Most people with thyroid issues, people who struggle with weight gain, people who struggle with brain fog, fatigue, feeling anxious, wired, or tired, these people are stuck in a chronic stress state known as adrenal dysfunction. And it's so frustrating to me because people will go to see their doctors and the doctors will say adrenal fatigue doesn't exist. Or, this is a real diagnosis, or we're going to give you antidepressants because your mood is off, or you have anxiety, or we can give you Ambien because you can't sleep at night, where really it's, if you can support the chronic stress response and you can shift that. And I don't mean, meditation is great, and I love psychologists. I think you can always work with a therapist in meditation, but there's an actual physiological, physical component of it where you need to do some repair work on your body to really shift into that healing, thriving state where your brain works, you have good energy, you have a good mood, you can sleep and rest and recover.
So now people who actually do have an Addison's or a Cushing's disease, they can still benefit from these protocols. It's a question. It's a question, really.
That's such a good question. And when people have Addison's disease or Cushing's, their stress tolerance is going to be impaired. With the case of Addison's, 90% of their adrenal glands are going to be destroyed by the time that manifests. So it's super important for them to be taking medications to make sure the body is receiving that. A lot of the strategies in the book focus on stress reduction and changing our perception of stress. And so I feel like anybody can benefit from that. So even if you have Addison's, I'm not saying stop taking your medications. I just want to be very
I'm not saying that either. I'm saying they can still read the book, digest the material, and it's still going to be helpful to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As a, because any of these conditions, like at least what I've found, is that there's not just one approach, right? You have to have
Yeah.
your toolbox and you have to know what to pull out of the toolbox when, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I mean, there are things, so some people with Addisons may actually benefit from extra sodium. Anybody that's with, and I talk about that in my book, anybody that has, is taking medications, of course, I always encourage you to work with your doctor um, on that. But of course, we, whether you have Addisons, whether you have Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, even if you don't have a diagnosis, this can be something very helpful on your healing journey.
And let's just say that, I'm not a doctor. Isabella is a doctor of pharmacological means, but we're not giving medical advice. We are just presenting you with um, other avenues to look at and to see how that might apply to you. And then, if these are protocols that you seem to think would be beneficial, then obviously, working with your care team to see if it's right for you is always your first step.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
So, um, tell us about a little bit about this book. What are we gonna see in the book? Why do we want to read it? What's going to be our biggest takeaways, do you think?
One of the big things that I focus on the book is shifting your body into safety. So a lot of us have been stuck in this survival mode, right? So we're overwhelmed by danger signals from sometimes from our environment, sometimes from our lifestyle, sometimes they're within our own bodies, like we might have chronic infections or toxins or reactive foods that are causing this. Sometimes could be coming from our minds, right? It could be stressful thoughts that we're thinking about or some of those negative coping patterns that could lead us to get into that space. And I really focus on creating safety in your body. So we do that through nutrition. So we get super nourished. We're eating plenty of anti-inflammatory foods. So we're getting off of the most common reactive foods, gluten, dairy, and soy. We're really focusing on balancing blood sugar. So we're eating generally more protein and more fat, a little bit more carbs than the average person. This will help to balance our blood sugar so well that we're not going to have as big of a requirement for cortisol. Whenever we're in blood sugar swings, that tells our body to make more cortisol when our blood sugar gets too low, and that can be perceived as a stress signal for the body. So by balancing the blood sugar, a lot of times people will say, holy cow, I thought I had anxiety. Turned out I had blood sugar issues. For some people, it's like 3 to 5 days of eating this way, adding more protein to their diet. They're going to be able to sleep better at night. They're going to be able to have a better mood because protein is an important precursor to our amino acids, which then turn into our neurotransmitters that make us feel good and help us feel more restful. And a lot of people, when they've been under a lot of stress, their body's been breaking itself down. And so we need a little bit more protein to help build the body back up.
So could you give us an example of maybe a day that would be a recommended protocol?
I love to recommend the day starting with the orange creamsicle drink that I call the adrenal kickstart. I've not had one person complain about it. This is something that people really do enjoy because it's so delicious. You would take a half a cup of orange juice, preferably organic. Has some vitamin C to help support healthy adrenal function, healthy immune function. It also contains a little bit of natural sugar to help us raise our blood sugar levels in the morning. Some of us might have low blood sugar in the morning if you have hypothyroidism, if you have adrenal issues. And if you're on that blood sugar roller coaster, you might have that feeling where you wake up and you're not sure who you are, where you are, and you're extremely tired in the morning. That's going to help you wake up a little bit. But I combine it with a source of protein, so like a vanilla flavored protein, and then some fat, ideally coconut milk, so that you don't get on a blood sugar roller coaster with it. The protein helps you rebuild your body with with creating energy through your mitochondria. Our mitochondria takes fatty acids and
Mhm.
it creates energy out of them. And then we're also going to be adding some electrolytes. So electrolytes are one of the hidden secrets to having good energy throughout the day. And a lot of people, that have gone through my program, there's been 3,500 of them now, will say the only thing that they did was the blood sugar balance and electrolytes. And they were like, I thought I was hydrated. Turns out I wasn't. My headaches went away. I have so much more energy throughout the day. And this is what I did. Another thing I do, and it's so easy to do if you live in Southern California, not so easy if you live in Alaska, is stepping outside first thing in the morning to get some morning sunshine. This will help give your body
Circadian.
that circadian signal that it's time to make energy. And that in 12 hours or so, it's going to be time to go to sleep, right? And so that helps your body create a healthy cortisol curve that first thing in the morning. So ideally you're having this beautiful smoothie outside in the sunshine. If that's not possible, you can get a light therapy box.
Okay.
I lived in
Okay.
Amsterdam for a year, and that light therapy box was my bestie because it rained almost every day that I was there. So it wasn't always possible to step outside and get that morning sunshine. And so this is a great way to start your day. And maybe you delay your caffeine a little bit. That will allow your body to produce its own cortisol. Some of us, and I've been us too, will self-medicate with caffeine early in the morning because that helps to increase our cortisol levels. And cortisol and all of our hormones, they have a feedback loop, right? And so if your body senses that you're getting cortisol from somewhere else, it's not going to make its own. And so to establish that pattern, we can do the sunshine, we can do the adrenal kickstart drink, and then we just wait 30 minutes to drink our caffeine. And then our body will start making cortisol naturally. I shared something with people like how to get more energy in the mornings. And they're like, I did what you said, and I forgot that I didn't have my caffeine, but I don't even need it.
Right.
And so this is something that people can utilize to really figure out how to build their own energy throughout the day. And then as the day goes on, I'll have people eat for blood sugar balance, utilize certain supplements and nutrients to help rebalance their stress response. And then in the evening time, we really focus on setting up a good nighttime routine. So we're not like, we're trying not to have too many bright lights come into our eyes if we find that we're not getting refreshing sleep, if we find that we have trouble falling asleep. Sometimes just having too much indoor lighting can lead to that. So doing things like blue blockers can help. Blocking out sources of blue light in your bedroom can be incredibly helpful. And then part of the nighttime routine, I would recommend doing an Epsom salt bath. For people with pain in their bodies, anxiety, for people with trouble falling asleep, getting an Epsom salt bath can be such a huge game changer. A lot of the things that I talked about, these are magnesium deficiency symptoms. Magnesium gets really burned out when we're stressed out, and getting an Epsom salt bath is going to help to replenish those magnesium stores through our skin.
So if you're someone who can't get in and out of a tub, can you do something as simple as a magnesium foot bath? Or do you recommend just actually taking a certain amount of magnesium at that time, whether it be through a drink or, a pill form?
Oh, absolutely. So a lot of the people that I've worked with don't have bathtubs. And so one of the things we do is
that too.
we do a foot bath, right? And so you can just put your feet in there. You add maybe a cup of Epsom salts, half a cup to a cup, and you soak your feet. Feels really, really good. It's great for thyroid too, because it can warm us up, warm up our metabolism. Other sources of magnesium, you can do topical lotions. And then you can also use a supplement like magnesium citrate, and that's going to be a pill form.
Interesting. And then you had mentioned earlier that like a balanced meal that will support the adrenals isn't going to include protein, fat, and carbohydrate. So do you have a particular carbohydrate that you recommend?
Um,
Like,
Definitely eating sweet potatoes can be incredibly helpful, especially in the evenings. I find that some women with adrenal dysfunction, they'll be like, I heard intermittent fasting is so good for me. I've heard that keto can be so good for me. And I feel like it can be for some people. There are a lot of benefits. But if you're in that adrenal dysfunction, you're going to find that you're doing intermittent fasting and you might feel worse, or you're
mhm,
doing keto and you might feel worse. You might be waking up in the middle of the night. And so for those individuals, this is oftentimes an adrenal and mitochondrial issue. And so we want to start off with having a good source of carbs in the evening, like sweet potatoes. That'll help us sleep a little
mhm.
bit better. And then we also simultaneously, we really work on mitochondrial health. Sleeping through the night, great for your mitochondria. Light exposure in the day, great for your mitochondria. I also have a list of supplements. Vitamin C can be helpful, magnesium can be helpful, some of the B vitamins, as well as carnitine is something known as D-ribose. These are all incredible for supporting the health of our mitochondria. And again, exercise intolerance and fasting intolerance are two of the symptoms that perhaps your mitochondria and your adrenals might be out of balance and they may need a little more support.
And so going back to like the person who thinks that, keto is their jam or fasting is, what's right for them, um, couldn't it be supportive to actually fix your adrenals first, and then you can go on to that later when you're in a state that could maybe support that, as opposed to vice versa,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Just taking yourself down further.
Yeah, absolutely. So I found that the people in the advanced adrenal fatigue levels, they don't tolerate a lot of stress. So even some of the positive stressors, like people are like, go exercise, you'll feel better. And they're like, I exercise and I feel awful, right? And
Yeah.
so in the initial healing stages, we really focus on just really nourishing yourself and making yourself feel safe and reconnecting you with that healthy circadian rhythm, supporting your mitochondria so that you can thrive and feel amazing. And the brilliant thing of this is, like, whether you have too high of cortisol or not enough cortisol, a lot of the strategies that are focused in this program, they're really focused on bringing you back into balance so that you could feel really good in a short amount of time.
Right. And I think probably you're not saying that you're not going to have some automatic fasting in your day, like we should all be having. Like people think that this idea of intermittent fasting is a new thing. But in reality, people should, originally people ate at 6 in the morning and 6 at night. And
Yep.
so they were having automatically 12 hours, right? It's only that we recently invented that, you're going to, eat dinner at 9 o'clock and go to bed at 12 o'clock. And now, oh, when you wake up at, you know, who knows what time, then you don't eat for a few hours, and then it's a whole thing, right? Then you're, oh, I'm going to have my coffee first. And I mean, these are not really new principles, right? It's just kind of expanding upon, kind of trying to work everything into that. If you're really following a circadian rhythm, right, you're really going to be still having a fasting part of your day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the women that I start working with, they're the women that wake up in the middle of the night and have trouble with going back to sleep unless they have a snack. And so this is, I meet people where they are. So initially I'm like, keep a banana by your bed. We're going to be working on increasing your protein throughout the day and light exposure during the day. That's going to help relieve that nighttime hunger. And
Mhm.
as we go through the program, you're going to be able to shrink your window when you are eating. But for some women, they still need that 9 p.m. snack. Ideally, if you're in a really good balanced state, you're going to be able to fast overnight without an issue. If your
Mhm.
adrenals, mitochondria are compromised, you're going to be waking up throughout the night.
Yeah. That's a good point. I have to say, I personally have never experienced that. I think only for a short time when I was breastfeeding my baby. Then for those 6 months, when I was up in the middle of the night, I thought, oh, I better have some protein. So maybe that was my personal experience. I know that you are short on time and we need to wrap up. So do you have something you want to close with? I know we can come back to talk more and get something on the schedule if there's more that we should. But do you have something that you would like to wrap up that you think is, a final closing thought for people to leave people with? And then obviously the book right now is already available. How?
It's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and wherever fine books are sold.
Okay.
So if you found this conversation helpful, please go check it out on Amazon right now. I think the reviews are starting to come through as well. I'm really hoping to spread the message that adrenal dysfunction, this is a real thing, and that we need real help. So every time, if you already have the book, if you leave a review, that helps to spread the message. Picking up a copy of the book helps to spread the message as well. It is, yeah, my thoughts is, that I want to leave people with is, if you are struggling, if you're brain fog, if you're fatigued, if you're anxious, if you're suffering with excess weight or sleep issues, pain throughout your body, I want you to know, like, a lot of times people can get brushed off and they're told that this is common, that this is, normal. And it's very common. It's so common in our modern times, but you don't have to live like that. You don't have to feel that way. Like, you can actually shift into a healing, thriving state, and you could feel bright, beautiful, empowered, and have good energy, be able to sleep well at night, and have a beautiful, calm energy throughout the day. This is what I want for everybody listening. If you're not there, this is what I hope for you. And whether you get my book or another book, I really encourage you to work on your health and empower yourself and educate yourself.
Absolutely. So important. I want to reiterate again, we're coming into a new season, and I think probably everybody can up their health game in some way. I understand there have been people who they've taken advantage of, that's where they really poured themselves into. So, they've come out on this side in improved health markedly, but I would like to bet that the majority of us haven't had that experience, and we can really use this time as a refresh. And so I think this is a great addition for people to take a look at. And I thank you for bringing it to us and spending some time. I will add it to my Amazon boutique, so it's in there. If anybody needs to, want to find it quickly, I'll have it in my store. I'll add that. And thank you again. And then if we come back for another conversation, we'll just let you all know. And if you have questions, please leave them in the comments. And we'll see you again. Thank you, Izabella, so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to connect with you, and I so appreciate you.
Same here. Okay, thanks so much. Bye for now.
Take care.